Happy October, everyone! 'Tis the season, is it not? The leaves are starting to change, haunted houses are opening everywhere, and in 30 days you'll be able to buy candy at $1 a bag. It's a good time of year. But personally, my favorite part of this oh-so-haunted holiday we call All Hallows Eve is the creativity that goes into it. The more twisted among us are always picking the brains of our fellow human beings to figure out what makes their blood turn cold. And the most clever among them realize you don't have to look too far. We pretend to be afraid of things like vampires, witches, and hollowed-out pumpkins, but you know what actually scares us? Getting robbed, getting fired, being diagnosed with cancer, things in nature that have holes in the... Nope, that's enough of that picture, thank you. The point is, I wanted to invoke a little of that this year. I wanted to use my platform of video game countdowns to explore some of the more prevalent and deep-seated phobias that a lot of us have, to plumb the depths of how the interactive medium has truly scared us. And at the request of my good buddy Ice Cold Koopa, we're going to start with coulrophobia, or fear of clowns. Now, to a lot of people, this phobia might seem a little funny, in more than one way. What's wrong with clowns? They live to see a smile cross your face. Or do they? See, this fear has a lot to do with our natural aversion to the uncanny and the unknown. There's something about clowns that's just a little off. What are they hiding with all that makeup and those baggy clothes? Like, how can they just break social norms and act however they like around people? You're telling me this thing with a pale white face and puffy lips that looks like a rainbow vomited all over it approached your child with the promise of free presents and you're not concerned by this? If that was a normal dude in a business suit, you'd be calling 911. People find clowns scary because they don't look enough like people. They don't act enough like people. They're these technicolor creatures that walk like men, but exist outside the regular limitations we have for each other. It's almost as if they have some kind of manipulative power that lets them break all kinds of rules without consequence. And when you think of the logical extremes of a statement like that, you can't tell me it wouldn't be at least a little unsettling to be around one of these guys. So hey, I'm Whatthefnu, and this is Team Pizza's Top 8 Clowns in Video Games.
Number 8.
Well, starting off strong on this one, aren't we? Do you remember that innocent, wonderful era where video games could just be anything? Where you could design a character around any kind of gameplay conceit and get away with it? We're actually starting to return to those bygone days, which makes me incredibly happy. But back in our prime, nothing could match the creativity on display. Need proof? Take a look at how you play Snacks and Jackson. So, get this, how this game works is that Jason DeBox sneezes, which causes his nose to fly off. In the time before it comes back, you have to maneuver him around the room, grabbing all the meals given to you, but not the peppers because they'll slow you down. So it's this crazy fast-paced mix between Pac-Man, Pong, Super Glove Ball, and... what is wrong with your neck, dude? I don't know what bugs me more about this character, how he has a tooth growing out of his upper lip, or the fact that he could reach halfway across the room and take a bite out of my shoulder. Poor Sente, this isn't their fault. The game itself is actually kind of fun once you get the hang of it, it's just... I can see why it never took off.
Number 7.
Kefka Palazzo is a clown through and through. In fact, during your first few encounters with the guy in Final Fantasy VI, his presence is played up mostly for laughs. But remember, the point of this phobia is that looks can be deceiving. Beneath that bumbling ball of incompetence lies an antisocial psychopath. In fact, when given ultimate power, Kefka destroys the entire world just because he can. But this isn't the Kefka that made the list, no siree. Square did their best with these sprites, I assure you, but to get the full effect from this character, we're gonna have to jump ahead about 14 years. Dissidia's interpretation of Kefka has all the room he needs to fill in the blanks from your imagination. fully detailed 3D, a fleshed out moveset, and voice acting to make sure you can hear the malice dripping from every word he says. Everything from the way he moves to the way he fights and acts is designed to make you uneasy. He seems flippant and carefree even in the midst of battle. Like, who does that? Is he just that confident in his own abilities? Or does he just believe that the value of life isn't something worth taking seriously? Yes, and that's part of why he is still celebrated as one of the series' greatest villains.
Number 6.
Okay, what is with arcade games and creepy clowns? Like, this isn't even the last one on the list. I will admit though, Killer Clown from AB Cop isn't much of a killer at all. In fact, if you look at his picture, he seems like a pretty bog-standard bozo, all things considered. That is until we pan this picture outwards and reveal that he sells women into slavery. I couldn't make this up if I tried. I lack the creative influences necessary to conceive something so messed up. And again, this just hammers home the point of why some people just do not trust clowns. You don't know what's going on underneath that face paint. They look flippant and colorful on the surface, but for all you know, that could be concealing some dude who runs a human trafficking ring. The only thing that keeps him from being higher on this list is that you eventually smash your bike into him until he explodes and stuff him in a jail cell. And on that day, society breathed a collective sigh of relief.
Number 5.
Yeah, I might be a little biased towards this one considering it comes from my favorite game of all time, but I swear, Flotsam from Dark Cloud 2 does anything but joke around. That's a Dark Chronicle for those of you across the pond. Flotsam isn't just a clown in the circus, he is the circus. He runs the place, and all the little misfits that make it up. He also threatened the mayor and tried to murder a 13-year-old boy for a necklace, so what a role model, eh? He's a character putting on a facade, whose mood can take a drastic swing at the tip of a hat. And it's that unpredictable nature that makes him such a good villain for the first chapter of the game. Also, props to his voice actor Phil Proctor, who plays the part of a violent and power-hungry madman almost too well. Seriously, I am so glad that guy's still getting work. But anyway, Flotsam is a manipulator, a con man. He acts happy and upbeat when it's convenient, but as you progressively deny him of what he's after, the mask peels away to reveal something much more dark and sinister. Perhaps that is what makes him so scary. Or maybe it's that your first introduction to him is an actual, literal jump scare.
Oh god!
And if that doesn't do it for you, hey, he's got an entire troupe of eyeless clowns, a killer elephant, and a giant robotic spider clown under his command. It's even named Halloween, isn't that convenient and topical? Whether he's pulling the strings behind the curtain or right up in your face, Flotsam is a presence you never stop feeling in this game. Until he gets set on fire and thrown off the back of a train. He'll be fine.
Number 4.
Alright, let's switch gears for a second and talk about zombies. Zombies are a pretty well understood format at this point. Any horror buff worth their salt knows that zombies aren't scary because they're zombies, it's because of the effects a zombie apocalypse has on society as a whole. It breaks down the structure of safety and general mutual trust we have with one another, something we usually take for granted in everyday life. And sometimes, it reveals that the real monsters are the still living people right in front of you. Furthermore, zombies can be used as symbolism. Like, conjure up this mental image for a moment. A bunch of human-like creatures aimlessly shambling around a shopping mall whose only goal is to consume, consume, consume. Not that difficult to picture, is it? Nor are the people left among this madness desperately trying to cling to what humanity they have left. Adam's one job was to entertain. He legitimately loved to make people laugh. In fact, it was the one thing that made him happy. And then everyone became zombies, and nobody was laughing anymore. So this is about the point where Adam snaps and realizes that the only way to make people happy is to keep them from turning into zombies, and to make that happen, he shoves the only warm body he can find into the funnest thing of all, the mall's roller coaster. And as for the crowds that are left, well, he has an old act involving juggling to keep them entertained. This guy is so far off the deep end that you have no choice but to fight him, which is a tall order because of how powerful he is. Adam is a very noticeable difficulty spike in a game that already expects you to miss things, die, and try again and again from the very beginning. So unless you're expecting him and know exactly which weapons to bring, you're in for a rough time of it. He does so much damage, and thanks to how quick and floaty his movements are, it makes the moments where you can't see him almost as terrifying as the ones where you can. In fact, Adam was such a memorable part of Dead Rising that his brother Evan tried to follow it up in Off the Record. But nothing beats the original and his deadly blue chainsaws. Adam puts the own in Clown.
Number 3.
How many of you out there have heard of an indie game called Bewilder House? Alright, now how many of you have only heard of it because of Let's Plays? No shame, I'm in the same pool, not gonna act like I'm any better, but regardless of the method, I'm glad I know of it. It's a rare find in that it's one of those first-person horror games that actually does something smart and interesting. It screws with you. It gives you a map, throws you into a room, and uses all kinds of tricks involving misplacement and even optical illusion to skew your internal navigation skills. Some of these puzzles are downright devious, but the best part? You aren't punished too hard for failure. The map simply resets and causes you to try again. So although the game has a tense atmosphere, none of it seems necessarily dangerous. That is until this guy shows up. I don't think the Bewilder House clown even has a name. He just pops in while you're navigating the third room and never comes back again. But despite his brevity, there are many reasons he leaves an impression. First off, as this kindly sign warns, he follows when you're not looking. So think of him as an extra creepy version of SCP-173, if that was even possible. Second, remember what I said about this game messing with your mind? I mean, it's right in the title, Bewilder House. Well, the fact that he essentially forces you to keep checking over your shoulder means you're likely going to lose track of your actual objective. The way he works essentially forces you to bewilder yourself. What a jerk! Not only that, but the room he pursues you in also has these lights that teleport you around when you accidentally make eye contact with them, which is entirely possible considering you're always looking in one direction anyway. Meaning, if you're not careful, you'll lose track of where he is. But he still knows where you are. He always knows where you are.
Number 2.
Given the resources necessary to do so, there are two IPs I want Team Pizza to buy the rights to someday. The first is Malice on the PS2. Haven't forgotten my promise, don't worry. And the second is Carnival. There are many words I'd use to describe that game. Well designed, in your face, and artsy in its own unique, over-the-top way. But delicate is certainly not one of them. And look, I know I emphasized at the start that in order to evoke colorophobia, you have to exercise at least some degree of subtlety, but I can't help it, man. After hours upon hours of playtime and countless quarters spent on repeat playthroughs, this game is burned into my brain, as is the last stage, the Big Top. Why? Why did your clowns turn out like this? Look at those eyes, look at those teeth. Look at how they get progressively more messed up the more you shoot them, and how if you're not paying attention, they can still keep coming after you regardless. And oh god, the noises they make. Contrasting that though, the big guys who look intimidating make all of the silly sounds when they're damaged, making this whole sequence equal parts terrifying and hilarious. Not unlike the rest of the game now that I think about it. And I hope you haven't hit your limit by the time you reach the center ring, because we need your brain! before we get to number 1, how about an honorable mention? Oh yeah, somewhere on this list I had to include what is probably the most famous clown in all of video games, Needles Kane. Huh? What? You thought he was called Sweet Tooth? Oh honey, no, that's the name of his car. Everything about this guy is as twisted as the metal on offer. His flaming head, his choice of vehicles, his voice lines. So why is he not on the list? Well, funnily enough, anytime I actually show Needles to someone who legitimately has a fear of clowns, he doesn't do it for them. I know, right? See, part of coulrophobia is the fact that clowns dance on the stage of the uncanny valley. They look just human enough to where we know they're like us, but different enough to make us question if we can actually empathize with them. And between the burning hairstyle and the fact that the clown part of him is clearly just a mask on top of the man, he doesn't really have that going for him. I mean, don't get me wrong, he's a homicidal maniac who kitted out an ice cream truck with homing missiles and spent half his life hunting for and trying to murder his own daughter, but those are the only things that make him scary. Needles is on here purely from reputation, purely because there would have been rioting in the streets of my comments section if I hadn't included him somewhere. Nothing more, nothing less. But in contrast, you want to see what it looks like when a character is frightening because they're a clown?
It's number 1.
I was really torn about this, because if you break it down to its basest elements, Clown House is terrible. Like, really, really terrible. The objective is way too easy, the AI exploitable, and after a while you just seem to know where the danger is coming from, which defeats the whole point of the horror. But give me a second to describe what you do in this game, and you might see why I put it at number 1. As the name implies, you are in a house full of clowns. Your objective is to find the key to the front door, which is placed randomly I might add, grab it, and return to the door to escape. Now here's the catch. Some of these clowns might be evil, as in they want to stab you, a lot. But then again, they might not. You could theoretically go an entire playthrough without a single clown making an attempt on your life. Or they might all be evil, you never know. Oh, and whatever you do, don't kill an innocent clown, because if you do, well, bad stuff happens. Is Clown House a good game? No, not really. It's way too short and minimalistic, even for something that's being offered for free. What it is good at, however, is preying on one specific fear. I'm convinced this game was made by someone who legitimately has coulrophobia, who thought the game was big enough and difficult enough simply because of the initial hurdle anyone who shared their fear had to get over just to approach it. It hits every button. The uncertainty of your adversaries, the uncanny behavior and appearances of the residents, and the promise of only possible threat teasing at the back of your brain, possibly turning you into your own worst enemy. I just wish the concept was more fleshed out. Wait. Hey there, welcome to the end of the video and what is hopefully going to become a brand new yearly tradition. If you'd like to see more videos like this, check out my last countdown about my top 8 favorite video game consoles, which I made to celebrate passing 10,000 subscribers. Where'd I put that thing? Ah, here it is. I also have a discussion series called Whatthefnu's Forum, where I talk about everything from game design and the state of YouTube to this week's topic, which is modding, why it's a good thing, and the reason not everybody is chomping at the bit to support it officially. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter because you hadn't already been asked that by every other content producer you've watched today. And if you're feeling really generous, head on over to the Team Pizza Patreon, which keeps the lights on and offers you special rewards in return. And as always, please be sure to subscribe so you can catch a brand new countdown just like this one every single week. Until then, I'm Whatthefnu. Later, everybody!